Hello, I'm DebDedrick, certified high performance coach, here with tip number 81, how to raise great kids. I think we could all use a little help, learning how to raise our children. Happily, mine are all raised now, and mine turned out really well. And I thought I would share some of the things with you that worked for me. And raising teenagers was by far one of my most challenging periods during my life. So if you're going through that, I'm with you there, and you have my thoughts and my prayers, and you'll come out on the other side, especially if you use some of these tips. So, number one, with your children, you can't always be their friend. I know it's really tempting to think that if you're always their friend, that'll improve your relationship. But when those times come when you have to be the parent, it's very difficult for them to hear you if you're always being their friend. I'm not saying you can't be their friend. I'm saying there needs to be a definitive person in charge when it comes to calling the shots, and it can't be them, especially when they get past that little 9 and 10-year age, and when they go into becoming teenagers. They really need a firm role model or slash role models. And if you have a unified set of parents, mom and dad supporting each other, that goes a long way, not only for providing good source of support for your children, but it also doesn't undermine the love in your marriage. If you have parents pulling against each other and one says yes and the other says no, that does nothing at all but destroy relationships. So keep that in mind. Number two, don't always do what the other parents are doing. Just because other parents do it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Because I was self-employed and I had a lot of responsibilities, I was not able to be involved. And I had 4 kids. Let's face it, I could not be in every single thing. I couldn't be on the PTA. I couldn't have each one of my children doing more than one thing at a time. I couldn't take care of the household. I couldn't take care of the laundry and the kitchen and all the things that go along with being a good mom. And be a good mom if I always was saying yes to everything. And so probably around when the kids were in middle school, it dawned on me, in order for me to keep my sanity, I was going to have to learn to say no and not worry about people not liking me. That was a big thing for me. I always was worried about being liked. So if that's a problem for you and you're worrying about what people are thinking, just remember it's only you who lays down in bed at night. It's only you need to please. And if you have to say no to keep your sanity, then learn to say no early and do it fast. Number three, limit the amount of TV and games, video games, that your children are partaking in. It could be their cell phone these days with Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat, and limit that. They don't need to have free reign on being involved in that, because when they're involved in that, that keeps their brain always on, and it could agitate them, and it could keep them from learning things that maybe are more important, which brings me to my next one. Have them learn how to help around the house. Give them chores that they are going to have to do when they grow up, and teach them how to do a good job. Tell them to have pride in the work that they do. If you start young, if you teach them early, and you work on developing their character, they'll take that throughout their life. And it is our job as parents to teach our children, to give them the tools to go out in the world and take care of themselves, which brings me to number five. They need to have a job. I always had my kids very early on, they all had jobs. They went out, and it was always my thinking that everybody should learn how to be a waitress or a server, because if you can learn to navigate relationships and quick thinking and jump and being able to manage multiple things at once, that teaches you a lot of skills that you can use in life. So most my daughters worked as waitresses in the dead of winter, car hopping. We had a where they would deliver food in the middle of winter. Well, maybe not. It opened in March and it closed in I think October. But they would walk up to cars and take their orders and set the trays on the windows, and if it was cold, they were outside working. I can remember many times taking gloves for them. And my sons, they worked as well. They didn't car hop. They wouldn't do that, but I tried to get them to do that. So going back over, you can't always be their friend, even though you want to. Your job as a parent is to be able to guide your children. Don't always do what other parents do. Don't worry about what they're thinking. Make choices that are making you happy, that serve your family. If you have a lot of children, you just can't possibly keep your sanity and have them in a whole bunch of after school activities. My kids were in it. I only let them do one, and they turned out just fine. Limit TV and games, video games, social media, limit all that so they don't get too completely wrapped up in that. Teach them how to work, have them get jobs so they can learn how to be great adults. When they go out in the world, they'll have a work ethic, and work on some of these things, work on their manners. If they can learn how to be respectful and learn how to not interrupt people when they're talking, and being good listeners and being good friends and not talking about others, all of those things are really great things that you can role model and teach your children that will help them be great adults. So I hope my tip today helps you how to raise great kids. If you apply some of these theories, or they're not theories because they work for me, but if you can apply these in your day-to-day life and stick to it, you'll find that your kids will turn out really good. I mean, mine did. This is a disclaimer, I'm not making no guarantees, but being a good parent, most of all, is being there for your kids and listening to them without interrupting them. So until my next tip, go out in the world, be a positive role model and influencer for good, and I will see you on the next tip. Have a great day, everybody.